Let me now move on to the margin property. This property does exactly what it says. It's used to declare the margin between an HTML element and those elements outside of it. The margin can be set for top, left, right, or bottom of the given element. So in this case, I have a container, and my margin values, if we go to the box category, are 39 pixels from the top of the page, 10 pixels from the right, 10 pixels from the bottom, and 10 pixels to the left. So what you see here is a position 10 pixels from the left edge, 39 pixels down. This will be positioned from the edge specified by the margin and padding values declared in the body element. Let's go ahead and demonstrate this by putting 0 in all of these values here. Click same for all, click apply, and notice that there's still a little bit of space between the edge of the element and the browser window, and that has to do with the padding settings set up in the body element, which I'll describe in a little while. Now the basic container here, the div element, sits in the natural flow of the document, sitting immediately left, spaced only by the body element's margin and padding declarations. By applying margin properties to each side of this container, the display can be significantly altered. Let's start off by setting a top margin of 16 pixels. Click apply. Notice that it moves down 16 pixels. Let's take our left, turn off the same for all. It also moved it over to the right, I should say, 16 pixels. Let's change this to 200. Click apply, and notice that it moves it all the way over to the right, 200. Now there's three types of settings that you can apply for margins. Auto setting, a value which can be a length or a percentage. Let's change this to right auto and left auto. This is actually a very good way to center your elements in the browser. Notice that if I preview this in the browser, let's go ahead and close my dialog and preview this in the browser, Firefox, save the file, and if we change the width of my browser, notice that that element stays centered. Great way to center, if you have floating designs, to center those elements right in the middle. Most browsers are happy with this margin of left auto and right auto, although Internet Explorer 5.0 on the Windows platform fails miserably, usually aligning the element to the left. At the time of this recording, most IE users were using IE6 or IE7. The workaround for IE 5.0 users on the Windows platform is to set your body tag to center so that everything is centered, and then set all your content here in the container to left justified. This approach ensures that the container is centered horizontally in the browser window, whatever browser is used, and acts as the perfect basis for any centered design. I should demonstrate the percentage value. Let's go ahead and close the browser here, and let's go back to my container 1, and let's set the left margin to 10%. Change that from pixels to percentage down on the bottom there. This will apply the left margin there to 10% of the entire width of the page. So notice that as this in my browser gets wider or narrower, the left margin will change accordingly, so that it's always 10% of the browser width. Probably to really get a good sense of this value, it's best, as with many things with CSS, to try different examples and see what changes the left margin will bring. So let's set my left margin from 10% to 40%. Click apply. Notice that it moves it over further to the right. Let's set this now to 5%. Click apply, and it moves it over. So let's change the width to 300 or 200. Let's half the width, and you'll notice that The margin has not changed. Let's change this now to 500. Click Apply. Margin still stays the same because, again, this percentage is based on the width of the browser window. Let's try this again now with a different width of the element. Preview this in Firefox. Probably a good idea to also preview this in Internet Explorer and any other browsers that you're using. But you'll notice that that margin there changes based on my width of the browser. Now my browser is way out here to the right of my recording window, but you can see that this is moving a little bit. So it's related to the width of the browser, not the width of the div element. Let me now move on to the next movie and review padding declarations. Padding is the distance between the edges or borders of an HTML element and the content within it, and it can be applied to any element. The best way to demonstrate this is with some examples, which I'll do in the next movie.